everybody, this is BeBo, and today I am here with Pointy Hat Games and the Pointy Hat himself.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And you're here with your dad, right?
Yeah, he's my dad.
Would you like to introduce your dad to us?
This is Pat. He's head of Pointy Hat Games. Tell him a little bit about his dad.
Well, we're a small company of about 5-6 friends that just decided that we had some good ideas for games, and one of us was really good with business, and so we made an alliance, and we've brought our first game with us, and we're unveiling our second tonight.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, is it exclusive to the stream?
Well, the
unveiling?
announcement kind of is, yeah.
Ooh, okay. So we have some awesome, exciting stuff to tune into. So this is Elemental Conflux, and then we've also got a couple other RPG things we're going to cover, right?
That is correct.
Can you tell us more?
Yeah, I'm here representing Iron Crown Enterprises. We're an RPG company, been around since the early 80s, back when really role-playing games started out and the revolution really got going. We all know D&D started mid-70s. Really, about 77 is when it started happening. And Iron Crown started around 1980. Really revolutionary company. I can't wait to talk about it. It's going to be exciting.
Cool. So do we want to look at Elemental Conflux first?
Sure. Elemental Conflux is a 2-player card game in which you are 2 summoners trying to take control of 3 out of 5 elemental nodes of power. And the way you do that is each player is dealt a hand of 10 creature cards, and with those creature cards you make up to 5 piles, and those piles do battle head to head. And normally you are given some strategy on how to lay out your piles, who goes first, and whatnot. But we set up a hand here pretty much just to show off the special cards. So when we begin battle, we turn over the furthest one over there. No, the cards. Yep, there we go.
This will be a representation of this, let's call it an army, attacking this army over here. And so we flip over the cards, and we have, if you want to read them.
Okay. So we've got an Elemental Lord of Water that reduces the strength of all opponents' fire creatures to 1, and it is a 10 cost, and it looks like it's water element. Okay. Then we've got a Fairy, which is a creature of air humanoid, and it's a 3 cost. What is that element?
Air.
Okay, cool. And then we've got Imp, which is a creature of fire, and it's a humanoid, and it has a 3 value.
So its total strength for that army would be 16.
Right.
Yep. And the opposing army has a couple of fire creatures.
All right, it's got 2 fire creatures that have a total of 18.
Yep. And with the 16 versus the 18, normally the 18 would win. However, the Undine has the ability to lower the strength of all opposing fire creatures down to 1. So it just myrtleized that army, and it has only a 2 strength versus the 16. So that person would take that pile.
Knocks it right out of the park. Surprise.
So the first battle has been completed, and
Then we move on to the next hand.
and who flips first?
Do you flip at the same time?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So
now we've got a
Jormungandr,
Jormungandr, okay.
the sea serpent.
I'm not good at pronunciation.
Neither do I. It sounds Spanish to me.
And this is a dragon of water, and it's a 10 value, but it has special text that says it automatically wins battle regardless of army strength score.
So that has the opposing army has a 20 strength.
But they don't win because...
Nope, because the dragons always win,
Okay.
no matter how strong the other army is.
I was playing an RPG last night. We didn't have to fight the dragon because we just stole from the dragon stealthily using portals, but...
Yeah,
Well,
a game
now
called
you're thinking with
Shadowrun
portals.
has a famous saying, never deal with a dragon.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this for pre-game is you all get 10 creature cards, and it's totally random. What's great about it is your control, because some people would say, cool, I have a dragon, 10 points. I know I'm always going to win. But that's not the case. There are spell cards and other augmenting cards that can change the game a little bit. So you really have to kind of decide, all right, do I want to put all my eggs in one basket? Do I want to be really even? Do I want to keep with a theme? For example, all one element.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of strategy as to the placement of your cards. So, next
Let's,
battle?
yep, let's go for the next battle.
Okay, so we've got a wizard here that says, yeah, a wizard.
Look what he looks like. He looks like my dad.
He does. That is uncanny.
How'd you get in there?
Self-insert character.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this says, draw a spell card. The armies of both players are switched before the winner is determined.
Yeah, wizards are jerks. They'll switch the armies before the winner's determined. So if the opposing army had a strength of 13 and the wizard has a strength of 0 but has to be played with another card, so usually take a throwaway card with like a 2,
Yep.
switches the armies so they have your 2 and you have their 13, making you the winner.
Right.
Yep.
Of course.
And so you have to take 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Now, normally we would have stopped play right there and somebody would have taken one of the nodes. But just to show off the rest of the creatures, we'll do the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we've got Pyrothrax, and it's a dragon of fire, and it automatically wins a battle regardless of army strength.
Yep,
It's
all
10
dragons
cost.
do that. However, the opposing army had...
Yeah, they have Genie of Earth, which discards a dragon from the opponent army. So this is definitely the dragon counter.
I
Yep,
wish for
but
the
it only
dragon
has
to
a-
go away.
But it only has a 1 strength, so it's not a really great card for an army. However, if they happen to pull out a dragon, it's the one thing that can wish a dragon away. And now that that player had no cards in his army, has a strength of 0, they won with that strength of 1.
Right. And so what's
yeah.
neat about that is that the strategy of placement, because you kind of take turns, and it's who places first.
Okay.
So when you see someone place 1 card, you kind of think to yourself, okay, is that a dragon or is it a genie?
Right.
And some of the other cards that can kind of change up play.
Yeah.
You know, if I have some low cards, I might want to say, okay, that's got to be a dragon. I'll just throw a couple 2s in there and call it a day.
I mean, this is right up my alley. My favorite game of all time is Battle Line from Reiner Knizia.
Okay.
And so if you're like giving me a row of things to battle on, I'm like, I'm ready.
Right.
Let's
Yeah,
play.
my youngest daughter, she's 13, and she likes this game. So a lot of times if we have a little bit of time to kill, we'll actually play this game. And that's what's great about this game is that for people, older gamers like ourselves, we can have a lot of fun with this. But kids, they can really grasp the concept easily.
Well, and kids' favorite thing in the world is thwarting their parents in a game, right?
Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
Isn't there another battle we have to do?
There is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
The air elemental is up for grabs, and this is a very big hand. We have a 7, a 10, and a 6 with no special abilities. Sorry. But we have a Summoner of Water, which says draw a creature card and add it to your army. And so now we have 2 7s. Let's see if we can top deck something good. A 10. All right, so that means we're going to beat this by 1 point total.
That's right.
And now that the battle's been concluded, the person who won the first 3 hands would have taken one of those elemental nodes. Let's say it was the elemental node of air. Now that they have the elemental node of air, any air creatures that they play in their armies are now strengthened,
Awesome.
making it just a little bit easier to try and take the other nodes. Now, as mentioned earlier, there are spells in the game that kind of mix up play. There are spells like the Rune of Water, which strengthens all of the water creatures in that army by 4. You have kind of the opposite card, like Earth Scorch, which lowers all of the earth creatures in that battle down to 1.
That's brutal.
Yep, and we have like a Summoner's Mulligan, which if you don't like your starting hand, you can discard up to 5 cards and draw 5 new ones. Or we have like the Circle of Sealing, which removes text from all of the special creatures, so their
Oh.
special abilities don't go off.
That could be very brutal.
Right.
Yeah.
So the dragon, instead of being 10 always winning, it's just a dragon. It's just a 10.
Okay.
So, yeah, and the spell cards are actually pretty awesome. And so that's the other strategy too is, you know, you have so many spell cards in your hand and you kind of decide, okay, do I want to get them fast? Do I want to get them slow? Here, you know, we came out strong. We got the 3 right away, so it wasn't really a big deal. And you do hold on and retain these spell cards. throughout the game. And whoever takes
Three.
Yep.
3 out of 5.
And so you're doing 3 out of 5, so best of 5 wins.
What do you think the playtime is for this game?
Yeah, it's teachable in 5 minutes and playable in 10.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have a expansion for it this year, the Spirit expansion. The only 2 Spirit cards in the core set are the 2 Wizards. But this new set brings out a whole suite of 13 new creature cards, like Bahamut, the King of Dragons,
I like his rainbow scales.
Oberon, the King of the Fae, Titania, Mana Elementals, Unicorns.
There you go.
Everyone's favorite mythical creature.
But all of these spirit cards, since the spirit suit is only 1 out of 5, we've given all the spirit creatures special abilities, like even the weakest ones, the ghost. If this army that the ghost is in wins the battle, it will move to the next army
Okay.
to strengthen the next army. Sorcerers, like wizards, when revealed, they allow you to draw a spell card. Unicorns, you draw 2 of the creature cards, and all creatures in your army that match the elements of those 2 cards are increased by +2.
Oh, cool.
And the mana elementals allow you, if you have a bunch of spell cards just kind of sitting there in your hand that you can't use, you can burn them for extra strength for your army.
Oh, cool.
And Bahamut is the King of Dragons. Even if you have another dragon in your opposing army,
He defeats
Bahamut's the trump card.
Got it. Cool.
And there's 2 new spells in there, Raise Dead and Prismatic Blast, for a little more spellcasting fun.
That's fantastic. Are these all available for sale at Gen Con?
Yes,
Okay, cool. What booth are you in?
3061.
And of course, it's important to note that if you run over there tomorrow, you can talk to Mr. Pointy out himself.
Of course you can. I'll be there all day.
All right. And so, are we going to reveal the other game next, or do we want to talk about some RPGs?
Let's give some time to Iron Crown.
All right. So, tell me all about your RPG. First off, what inspired the creation of some of these RPGs, and how did they come to fruition?
That's actually a great question. I think like everything else, you start as a kid and you play kid games. And I think that just naturally you progress and these games get bigger and badder and better. Some of the board games here, we grew up with like Monopoly and games like that, and now we have games that are simulating zombie apocalypse or movies and things like that. And I think that role-playing games kind of did the same thing. And that's kind of where I was starting, is that, the first game starts as a role play. It starts out as kind of miniatures and combat, and then we say, well, let's add a role play to this. And then we kind of assume the role of some great fiction, magicians and fighters and all these great heroes. And so Rolemaster starts with a bunch of college guys that want to make Dungeons & Dragons better. And so they make an add-on, a supplement, to make combat a little bit more realistic.
Okay.
And so in most games, hit points are kind of the standard way that I can survive or not survive.
Right.
And so, I use the dagger example because you said you had a 8th level sorcerer.
Yes, I did.
Right. So an 8th level sorcerer, and you had, let's say, 40 hit points. And so if I hit you with a dagger, it's 3 points of damage.
Sure.
And you kind of think to yourself, wow, I got hit with the dagger for 3 points, but there's really no realism there, right?
Right.
Because
They're
if
hit spots.
yeah, right. But if I hit you with a dagger, you're probably going to be bleeding, and so it might actually make it so that you're not fighting as well. You'll take a negative to your future attacks. And so what these guys did is they made what were called critical tables, and it was called Arms Law. And so they created this, and they said, wow, this makes the game so much better. And then they said, well, wait a minute. What about the way spells are handled? And so you learn spells instead of kind of piecemeal like the sorcerer does. You learn them thematically. And so you don't just learn a fire bolt, you learn all things related to fire. We call that fire law. So at lower levels, you might just heat things up.
Kind of like Avatar, The Last Airbender.
There you go. And
Yeah.
okay, and of course, I don't know enough about that, but yeah, once you get to higher and higher levels, entire, immolation, conflagration, and I set everything on fire at higher levels. But it's sequential and it makes sense. And that was based in PowerPoints, which a lot of systems use mana points
Right.
to kind of quantify how to use it. And this is one of the first systems to actually use that. So yeah, so the company happened and was producing products, and it was just fantastic. And it's just, you know, evolved throughout the years in a number of different ways. So, and I can show you some of the products. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. And is there art in the book?
There is some awesome art. I would have to agree. And in fact, some of the original old Middle-earth role-playing art,
Cool.
the young lady that did it at the time, I actually met her last year at Gen Con. There was a little bit of a hero worship there. Some of the guy that did some artwork in here, big Ramones fan, he came to our table and was like, hey, you guys have my art. So yeah, some of the artwork in here is fantastic. My style of artwork, I like the black and white. I like the imagination of color in my mind.
Okay.
And that's what I always loved about these games. And they do have some full color art in some of the products, which we'll get to. So
Okay,
first,
cool.
just I always have to throw this out there. The original game, Rollmaster, came out, and the fans loved it. And so what they did is they kept saying to us, hey, we want this product, we want this product, we miss this product. So we actually listened to our fan base and said, you know what, we'll take Rollmaster, the original one, some people fondly call it RM2, and we'll put it back out there. And yeah, show the hat, he likes to read.
I like pictures, actually. I can't really
There's a
read.
cat here.
Oh, kitty. Hi, kitty.
I love it.
And so what they did is they reprinted the books, I think as close to exact as they could as the original. Some artwork has changed, the layout's a little bit different, cleaner. And so the original Arms Law, you're actually holding it in your hand now, I believe.
I am.
Yeah. And then Spell Law, everything you need to know about spells. Character Law, how to create characters within this game system. And then Creatures and Treasures, always our favorite. All the monsters and good magic items we can have.
Well, that's
Like
always the
cats?
most fun.
That's always the fun part, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this product is actually out there for those fans that really just their books got old and they still like to play that original game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I do like the black and white art in here.
Yeah, the layout is just gorgeous. It's a company that I think they understand that as a gamer, as a game master, as a player, I need functionality. I need stuff that just works.
And everything looks pretty easy to read. I mean, I might need a magnifying glass for some of it. But other than that, it's very accessible and readable.
Yeah, for sure. So this game has a lot of realism, and for some people, it can be, a lot of people call it a crunchy game. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of rules and stuff. So what happened,
I mean, it's like Hackmaster, right? My co-parent plays a lot of
Hackmaster's the big one.
Hackmaster.
Yeah, that's another one that people, in fact, many people came to our table and talked about that today. And so Iron Crown came out with a game to be a little lighter, but still had the same feel.
Awesome.
And so what they came out with was Harp, high adventure role playing.
Are you
So,
sure it's not hat adventure role playing?
that might be a supplement hat. We'll see what we can do in the future.
All right.
Maybe for hat role playing.
This
Good
one
idea.
looks futuristic. You're going to need to dress up for that.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll
what-
hold on to my hat for that.
So what they did is they made this game, and the process is very similar to Rollmaster. The combat has been condensed down. Some of the character creation has been condensed down. The stats are more focused. The skills, a lot lower skill set. And they changed magic around a little bit. A lot more control, more piecemeal with some of the spells. So Harp is a fantastic kind of intro to the system. Adds that realism that everybody kind of looks for when they come to the Iron Crown booth and are like, oh, I love this game, I love this game. So Harp is a fantastic, fantastic game. What's great is every once in a while you get that game master that likes to take you to a different time frame.
Yep.
Right? You have swords, the next thing you know, you're on a spaceship.
Yep.
And vice versa. Yeah, and so what happened, there was originally a game called Space Master, and now we have Harp Sci-Fi Future. And this is awesome. I might be partial to this as my name and playtest might be in it, maybe, because I love the future sci-fi. And what's great is we took this game, we looked at both of them, made sure they were 100% compatible across the board. They are campaign neutral, so that any product that you have from Rollmaster to Harp, you can use in any campaign setting, which is just fantastic. And so this is for someone that wants to get into the idea of how our games are played, this is fantastic.
I'm a big Star Trek fan, so
Yeah, and
sci-fi
so
is the one I'm.
There you
leaning
go.
toward.
And so the idea of like, blasters and lasers and all the different types of ray guns and stuff like that, ships and spaceships, Harp Sci-Fi does that actually pretty well. And that's what I kind of like about it. So, we also have a campaign setting for Harp. It's called Cyrodion. Very different than a lot of settings. And Cyrodion is a continent on Mithra. And the world is, it's a very post-apocalyptic feel.
Okay.
A magical cataclysm has kind of wrecked the world. The ancient gods are missing. So it's a very different feel, very unique, which as a game master allows for a lot of really awesome gameplay. And then the other thing we have supported in our booth, actually before I say that, a lot of our products, close to I think 150 are available on some of the online RPG Now, Drive-Thru RPG. And so a lot of them are available in PDF, which is really great, especially some of the old, and some can get printed on demand.
But out of print stuff.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
some of this out of print stuff, people are like, oh, I wish I had that. Well, yeah, it's available, and it's really reasonable. The other thing is this system for people that are looking for really quick gameplay, they sometimes have some problems with this. And so what they did is they created the electronic role-playing assistant.
Oh.
It's called ERA, E-R-A. And so almost every book, and I didn't check every one, but is available for about $10. And each one of these books gets added into your electronic role-playing assistant so that all the complex combat, making the characters, things like that, which can take a lot of time, even in other games, you can do, which
It's
is
an
great.
investment, but it's worth it.
It is. And if you think of hours of enjoyment per dollar, I mean, think about
yeah.
this, right? You've invested 20, 30, 40 bucks in a game, right? And you've played for 10 years every other Saturday.
Right.
And you've laughed and you've cried and you've had so many emotions with this awesome craft. And you really can't put a price tag on that.
You can't.
And so this, again, this is the game with a very interesting setting. There are some new products coming out for this. The Bestiary is coming out soon, so we got our monsters coming for Harp. People are anxiously waiting. I don't have an exact release date for that, but those are coming. And then last but not least, one of the original game players, Terry Amthorpe, he created a world just over 30 years ago, I believe. He made a couple modules for Iron Crown, and he created this world called the Shadow World.
Okay.
And I kind of fell in love with it from the beginning. Yeah.
I love the art.
Oh yeah,
on the front.
it's incredible. So Shadow World is a very, very high fantasy world. The time frame for this, spoiler alert for a lot of others, dates back 200,000 years with kind of the ancients, and so it's a very, very epic setting. And so the Shadow World, Terry created this, and what's great about it is he gives a rich history for the world that you can or cannot choose to use in your campaign, depending on where you are geographically. The world is just massive. The gods in the world, the way they interact with the people of the world, very well written. And so, as a game master, if I want to run a real high fantasy, high level campaign, this is a fantastic system that'll really, really knock you for a loop.
And I really like the
Yeah,
old world tech.
Right, with the airships and stuff like that. Yeah, Terry's imagination is great. This one, I really, really like this because this is Eidolon. This is actually the second edition. I have the original. Thank you, Terry. This one kind of shaped my role-playing experience because Eidolon is a floating city.
Oh.
And it's above this undercity. And
Okay.
so when you think about that, you have this city up here with a demographic and an aristocratic kind of feel.
Yep.
And then you have that kind of undercity.
Yep.
And so I like running campaigns in this setting quite a lot.
Because I'm sure you start in one place and then end up in another, and
Right.
things get fishy.
It is, and it's incredible. And what's so cool about it is Terry, like I said, Terry started the game with some college buddies. And it's awesome meeting them there at the con, talking to them about, why they created such a great game. And Terry still supports his product. Like I said, it's over 30 years. On the 27th, I might happen to be reading a beta of another product to kind of give some input as to what's happening and giving it a read through, which I'm very excited about. Terry has written a novel for this. There are, I think, a total of 5 novels now.
Oh, wow.
So this is a setting that has kind of flown under the radar for people that don't play Rollmaster. But I tell everyone, you want to run a campaign in any game system, this would be what you want to do, for sure.
Cool. I really want to go from upper world to underworld. That just seems like a blast.
Oh yeah, it's very cool.
Cool. What's your favorite book?
Mine? Oh, I don't need to look through them all, to be honest. I'm a bit of a slow reader.
All right. Well, that's forgivable for now. But have you at least played this other game we're going to look at?
You know what? I haven't, because it's currently in development, right, if I'm not mistaken? Or at
Well-
least close to it.
Close to the end of the development cycle, actually. We're getting ready for a Kickstarter for it, probably around the tail end of October.
Okay.
This is Dungeon Dash, and in it you are one of 4 heroes who are running into the dungeon and trying to collect as much treasure as possible and escape the dungeon before the Dark Wizard gets back home.
Just like real life.
But we have our 4 core characters, Randolph the Red, and if you'll take a look at the top of Randolph's head, you'll see a familiar face.
Strikingly handsome, if you ask me.
He's kind of missing some stars, though.
Well, I did get hit kind of hard in seeing stars because of that.
They could have been burned right off with Randolph's fireball in his hand.
I hope not. I don't like fire.
We have Stormin Norman Armstrong, Captain of the King's Guard. We have Princess Zindel of Midrule. Does she look familiar at all?
No, I've never seen this woman before in my entire life.
And we have Rigel the Landwalker, treasure hunter extraordinaire. But these are the 4 characters that you can play to run the dungeon.
And does it play up to 4 players?
Plays up to 4 players.
Great.
And the way the game is played is we started the dungeon entrance. I've already revealed a couple of dungeon rooms and have set Randolph in this room and Norman in this room. And the way the game is played is at the start of your turn, each player chooses 1 action card in their hand.
I need to scoot closer. I can't see anything. Sorry.
Okay, we got your way.
Each player chooses 1 action card in their hand. Now, each player has a set of 6 action cards that are common to everybody, which include resting, exploring, advancing, retreating, looting the room, and attacking.
Okay.
And each hero also has 4 hero-specific action cards. Now, when you choose an action card, everybody puts it face down, and then when you decide to reveal them, flip them over, and starting with the first player, then you resolve your actions.
Okay.
Now, the reason we do it like that is because of one very important, all-important card, Loot the Room.
Okay.
There we go.
And each dungeon room is seeded with a number of treasure cards. And when you loot the room, the first person in a room that plays Loot the Room gets to take 2 treasure cards. Anybody else who's in the room only takes 1.
Oh, okay.
So if Norman and Randolph were in the same room and Norman were the first player and they both played Loot the Room,
Rough. Nothing left.
Norman would get the 2 treasure cards that are in there, and Randolph would get nothing.
Is there any hat treasures?
Actually, the hat is Randolph's 4th level accessory card.
I'm just that special.
You are just that special. But each character has the character card that lists their strength, their agility, their wisdom, and their luck, their starting hit points and their magic points, and the number of spells that they have. And each character has their own character-specific weapon, armor, and accessory. The weapon, obvious for attacking creatures in the dungeon with your melee attacks or ranged attacks or magic attacks. Your armor upgrades give you better hit points or magic points. Some give special abilities like lowers the damage of lowers all incoming damage by a certain number. Accessories, they tend to raise stats, and the way its stats are is if you're asked to make a test sometime in the game, it's like you come up against a locked door, test strength. Norman has a strength 3, so he would roll 3 dice, and if it's test strength 5, he'd roll those 3 dice, and he'd have to get a 5 or above on one of those dice to be successful.
Got it.
And if Norman were in this room and he wanted to attack a monster, combat is all done in 1 die roll as well. Each monster has its own information card. So Norman has 3 strength. His battle blade gives him +1 combat, so he'd get another die. And the number up there says that the battle blade makes only melee attacks, so he has to be in the same room as the monster. But each hit will do 2 points of damage. The Dark Knight has 5 hit points.
5 and above.
So rolls the dice, and now you compare the numbers to this table. We'll take the first one is a 5. It's a hit. He deals 2 points of damage.
Right.
Swish.
The 3, under 3 it says, ooh, he takes damage -2. So you look at the knight's damage, 3, -2, he takes a point of damage.
Oof.
He has 2 1s, however.
Uh-oh.
And those are just regular take damage. So he takes 3 points of damage twice. So Norman just got creamed.
Bye, Norman.
Sorry, Norman.
But along with fighting monsters and collecting treasure, there is also a time limit in the game. At the end of every turn, the first player will roll a die, and say they rolled a 2. There's a darkness tracker that for every 10 points on the darkness tracker, one of these darkness cards are revealed. Now this is the machinations of the evil wizard coming back. And once that timer hits 10, you draw one of those darkness cards. It says, time is fleeting. Add X number of time to the darkness tracker.
Oh.
That's a horrible one.
Oh.
That speeds
boy.
things up a little early.
Yes.
Game over.
And if you say rolled 12, all of a sudden another darkness card comes out. And some of these darkness cards, like spells of holding, everybody has to make a test of their agility, and all heroes who fail that test lose an HP and MP, and they're delayed. Delayed, if you're delayed on any specific turn, you cannot play advance or retreat. You're trying to get deeper into the dungeon to get all the good treasure, but if you get down to like the last 5 cards, somewhere in those last 5 cards is the game over card. Malachi Returns.
So you're pushing your luck.
Yep. And if you draw the Malachi Returns card and you are still in the dungeon, you lose no matter how much treasure you have. And only those people who escaped the dungeon get to tally up their points for the win.
Awesome.
The treasure cards are
Yeah, let's get
pretty
greedy.
neat. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see what the presents.
We
How
have
about the loot?
Yep. You have the different loot cards, and these are basically the victory points that they're worth at the end of the game.
Yep.
Some of these
You okay,
treasures,
buddy?
I'm good, thank you.
some of these treasures are relics. Relics are kind of cool because they have an accompanying action card that goes with it.
Oh, hey.
Like the Shield of Protection, you would get the Shield of Protection card into your hand of cards, and if you ever, if Norman got creamed by that Dark Knight,
That sounds
he could,
familiar.
yeah, he could play that Shield of Protection and just cancel all that damage.
Does he get to keep the 5 points on the card, or does he lose it?
Yes, he gets to keep the 5 points on the card.
But he loses his relic.
No, he doesn't.
No?
He doesn't lose the relic. The relic gets discarded. It can't go back into your hand to be used just willy-nilly next turn. there is a mana cost on it, and at the start of each turn, you can pay that mana to take the relic card back into your hand to use it again.
Okay.
Now, the hero-specific cards, they too are fire and forget. Once you use them, they're gone until you do a rest action. Then all of your character cards come back to your hand.
Right, so like similar like an RPG, you rest, you get your power points back, you get some hit points back, the whole bit, which is cool. There's a timing issue though.
You have different like items and gear that you can get throughout the dungeon, like magic potions that'll restore your health or your mana, or let you roll extra dice. You can get the 10-foot pole, which allows you to just set off traps without taking the damage.
I mean, who would want to touch that with a 10-foot pole? Thanks to the rim shot.
Sorry that you were here for that.
You also have spells, which they're always with you. So, like for example, Randolph has the lightning spell and the firebolt spell and the shield spell. All he has to do to use those is just spend the magic points to do it.
Okay. And for
So-
example, Norman starts with 3 magic points.
Yep, and he only has one spell that costs 3 magic points. So if he wants to use that power spell and give himself, 2 extra strength and an extra point of melee damage until the end of his turn, he's got to blow all that mana.
And does the mana refresh every round?
1 point per round.
Oof. So
Yep.
you're taking a risk when you're losing all that mana.
Yep, and if you get extremely powerful relics that, like the Crown of Midas, which allows you to just, whenever you defeat a creature, draw a treasure card, those will burn through your mana quite quickly.
So what kind of other things can we expect while delving through this dungeon?
Aside from the monsters attacking you at every turn,
I'm just seeing a lot of face down cards.
we have
Intimidating.
cards like the Darkroom. If you move into the Darkroom and you try to advance or retreat from the Darkroom, you roll a die, and if it's 1 through 3, you retreat, and if it's 4 through 6, you advance.
All right.
So if you're trying to advance further in the dungeon and you get to the Darkroom and you keep rolling a 1 through 3, you're just going to keep going back out of it.
Right. That sounds pretty brutal.
The Vault Door. This is the cool room.
Okay.
The Vault Door is the door to Malachi's treasure hoard.
That's where all the swag is.
Yes, it is.
That's the swag.
And as an explorer action, you can try to test your agility to pick the lock. And if you can pick the lock, then another special treasure vault. You want to give it a try?
Yeah.
Norman has
Only 2
2
agility.
agility.
Come on, Norman.
And it's a 6 test. Nope. He can't do it
Missed
this
by
turn.
1. No treasure for me.
It has to be a 6 on one of those dice.
Oh, a 6 on 1, not even adding them together. That's
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty brutal.
brutal. So,
But it's a treasure
But if
vault.
you're able to open up the vault door, it uncovers a special room that can only be uncovered through the vault door, and that's the treasure vault. And there is a nice little stack of like 15 treasure cards in there. Unfortunately, it also has a big fire-breathing dragon in there.
I can relate to that.
Yes, and the dragon is
sorcerer.
extremely powerful. You don't want to go in there without first, beefing up your character a little bit. And some of these treasure cards are like an armor upgrade, in which you just take this, the armor card, iron plate, you just flip it over and it becomes the next highest
Oh,
chainmail.
awesome.
And there are 4 levels of your weapon, your armor, or your accessory. And upgrading them also is worth victory points at the end of the game.
I also see that chainmail has not only a heart, but another thing that looks like a mana crystal underneath it.
His mana doesn't really build up until like later armor levels, because he's not a magician. He's a big beefy guy that deals with things with a big sword.
He hits the aminos until they stop making noise.
Randolph's second level armor is the Quester's Cloak. He only gains 1 hit point with it, and he's already only got 5.
But he is a magical creature.
Yep. So his 2nd level armor gives him 2 extra magic points for a maximum of 12. He can do a lot with relics or with spells.
Now, is that
And
per
it
round
also-
or just instantly?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is that 2 mana per round, or is it just a one-time use?
It raises his maximum mana.
Oh, his maximum. Okay,
Yep.
sorry. I missed that.
His 4th level armor, the Robe of the Magi, does give him an extra mana recovered every turn. So he's the only character in the game with a full upgrade of armor that allows him to recover 2 mana per turn.
Okay, so magic is actually very limited in this game.
Very limited.
Got it.
His Quester's Cloak also has another ability on it. You may spend 1 magic point to ignore 1 damage. So as his armor gets better, he can also use his magic to mitigate the damage that's dealt to him.
Clever. Okay, well, I want to look through some of these cards myself. Yeah, look over these with me. Okay, so attacking monsters using whatever method is available to you.
Yep, like Norman can only use melee attacks. Randolph, he can use melee attacks, but they do so little damage. You know, it's just a mage's staff. However, if he spends a magic point and makes a magic attack, it deals 3 points of damage. So magic attacks are really powerful, but like all magic, it uses the magic point resource, which is
Valuable. Pointy Hat, what would you use for a weapon?
Me? Well, I'd probably just use a quick wit and just run the heck away as they're laughing.
That makes perfect sense.
I don't like confrontation.
And it looks like you're also pictured here resting. Are you a notoriously lazy hat?
I mean, wouldn't say lazy, but I have lied around a little bit.
I mean, you've been working the whole con.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that like you could go home and rest and it would be acceptable. Is this just post-Gen Con?
Exactly, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We'll give you a pass this time.
Okay, good.
And then advancing is just moving your
Yep,
characters down
moving
the
forward.
dungeon.
Retreat is moving backwards.
And each room has different kind of trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
You know, some of them might, monsters in there, lots of loot. Some slow you down.
Okay.
Yep, like the long hallway. Once you enter the long hallway, you're automatically delayed. You can't retreat or advance the next turn.
I'm pretty sure that's a nightmare I had as a kid.
That's
So-
how you know you're close to the boss.
The vault door. Can you go past the vault door without opening
Yep,
it?
you can go past the vault door without opening it. Like this, you can go to a tunnel here, and beyond that to the cavern, or the summoning circle where there's probably some sorcerers hanging around.
I just got a shirt that says, "Let's start a cult." And we've got this here.
Yep,
That's
a
the
long
long
hallway.
hallway.
But the dungeon in a standard game is 10 rooms long, not counting the dungeon entrance.
Okay. All right. And is it always the same 10 rooms, or are there other additional?
No, there are
options?
additional rooms. They're randomized. The vault door always has to be in that set of 10.
gotta
You
get
never
the
know.
loot.
Yep, you never know where it's going to be. It could be the second room in, but
Or the last one.
Or the
Yeah.
last one.
So you're delving deeper and deeper down in there, hoping your timer doesn't run out, because you know Malachi's coming. So do I get the loot and run? Running being the operative word. So yeah, for sure.
And so, how many of these rooms are there that come in the game?
The core set is going to have 20 rooms.
Okay.
And this is not the final art for the game. This is just a prototype. Once we do the Kickstarter, we have an artist that's going to come through and clean up all the cards and make everything look nice and tidy and pretty.
But you gotta have the money to do that.
We would have the money to do that.
Costs money to make games, right?
Yes, it does.
Cool. So I see there's lots of piles of varying loots over here. Can I look
Yep.
through these too?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. That is the magic item pile. It has things like the dowsing rod, which if you're in a room that has no treasure, you can just discard that and draw a free treasure card.
Cool. And these are usually one-time use, right?
Yep, most magic items are just one-time use. When you defeat creatures, some of them have like treasure chest icons on them, and when they're defeated, you roll the die, and there's a table that tells you, do I get a magic item for beating this creature, or do I just get a gear card, or maybe I get a potion?
Just a gear card.
Those are the monster cards.
Ooh.
Those are pretty much the monster minis. Another thing about monsters is if you move out of a space that a monster's already in, it just automatically hits you for some damage.
Okay.
But if a monster's in a room that no hero is in, it will move towards the dungeon entrance. And if you start letting monsters escape, every time a monster moves to the dungeon entrance, you roll that die again and you increase that darkness timer. So you don't want monsters to get away either.
I mean, they're probably running to go tell Malachi what you're doing.
Yes, sounding the alarm.
Those little squealers.
We gotta stop them, right?
Yeah, snuff them out.
Yeah. Well, we have to do all the work because you don't like confrontation.
Well, no. I'll always be there for the ride.
That's fair. Well, I mean, really, you're kind of there to make us look fabulous, right?
Exactly.
Perfect accessory.
Good.
And then we've got all of
Yep,
these,
you got all the spells.
which look like they're increasing your stats.
A lot of them do. There's like one for every stat. There are attack spells that deal damage to creatures from maybe far away.
Retreating cards.
Like if you have
Yep.
to fight the dragon.
Oh gosh, yes. Just unload with all the magic on the dragon. The dragon has
Explosion.
25 hit points.
Right.
Oh, 25 hit points. That sounds...
That's compared to most creatures, that's like 5 Dark Knights all in a row.
That sounds intimidating.
It should.
What were some of the challenges that you faced in designing this game? Because, I mean, it looks very well thought out.
Well, I ran into a couple of issues. The first iteration of combat I had in the game, we tried it out and the game took way too long. Every turn was like 10 minutes. And that doesn't sound very Dungeon Dash to me. So
I mean,
we...
you could always change the name to, like, Dungeon Slog.
Dungeon Slug!
Dungeon Slug.
Plunge through the dungeon slow as possible and maybe collect loot at a very slow pace. That's when I got the idea to just make all of combat just one roll of the dice and make all the information available on the monster cards. Another thing was balancing the treasures, because the lowest treasure in here is a sack of silver that's worth only 1 point. However, it is the most common card in the treasure deck. And balancing how many points of treasures go on each card was another challenge.
Gotta love spreadsheets.
Yep. And some treasures have a special bonus, like a large sapphire is part of a set of gems.
So set collection.
Yep, there's set collection. Golden mirror is an art object, and so is the golden goblet. If you have more than one treasure that has a keyword on it, and they have different names, they are worth extra points at the end of the game.
Is it exponential, like Science and Seven Wonders, or is it?
If you have 2 treasures of like the art set, it is worth another 5, and if you have 3 treasures from the art set, it's worth another 7.
Awesome. And how common are these to get more to get 2 of the same?
Not very.
Okay.
Out of many of the games we played, I'd say only 50% of the time do you get enough to make up a set.
You're gonna be really lucky then.
Yep. I had one person who upgraded all of their gear to its maximum level just through sheer luck going throughout the dungeon, and that's where all of their points came from, was their gear, and not a lot of points through like sets or anything. Had just a handful of sacks of silver, So like only a quarter of their points came from the actual treasure cards, which is it's just a different way to play the game.
Right.
If
There's
you're-
lots of paths
yep,
to victory.
lots of paths to victory.
And did they win?
They won, mainly because they were powerful enough to beat Samulox the dragon.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
Yep.
impressive.
Well, my hat's off to him.
Don't take your hat off. It's not that kind of party.
Awesome. And are you the designer of this?
Yes,
Are you the sole designer, or did you have help?
I am the sole designer, although my lovely wife, Joyce, is the lady I bounce all of my ideas off of. She's always there to give me the encouragement and always there to say, don't give up on this idea. Let's refine the idea. Think about it. Let's go out to eat and then think about the game again. Let me pull you away from the computer. We'll come back to it.
You can put your thinking cap on later.
Your jokes don't actually get old. Did you know that?
Oh, no.
They're great.
I'm just filled to the brim with them.
Oh, man. I haven't heard that one yet.
I had
Wow.
not. Oh, my goodness. It's just another feather in your cap, right?
Exactly. I call it macaroni.
Awesome. Well,
ICE, one thing I did forget to mention.
oh, yeah, totally.
At the booth, quite a few of the individuals that visited today were asking about the newest Rollmaster.
Oh, yeah.
Rollmaster has gone through 2 iterations. The original, like I said, reprinted now as classic. In the mid-90s, they came out with a new version of Rollmaster. And it was called RMSS, Rollmaster Standard System.
Okay.
Did some tweaking to it. It turned into FRP. And that was the second generation, if you want to call it, of Rollmaster. There is now available, that's still in beta, I should say, available as a beta. We're testing Rollmaster Unified. We have taken basically our supporters, our fans, we've taken their input and we've made some changes to the game to add, the big thing with Rollmaster is always, well, does this add realism to the game? We want a realistic comment. We want realistic heroes. And so the newest version of Rollmaster, called Rollmaster Unified, is presently in beta. And so Iron Crown is working closely with the fans to produce a product that's going to outshine all, the other incarnations of Rollmaster.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's been a little bit of a long time coming. Waiting on artwork, obviously. We always want great artwork, and we also want a great product. And so we've been asked, when's this coming out? When's this coming out? And there is no direct answer, but what there is a working of the fans and the supporters with the staff to make sure that the product is going to be something that they're going to be satisfied with, they're going to be happy with, because we're working with the players to do this. The great thing about Rollmaster, and I do have to kind of say this, but I kind of grew up on this. This really shaped a lot of my life, like most role-playing games do. I had quite a few people, but one guy in particular came up and he said, this really changed my gaming outlook for my entire life. We all start with a fairly simple game, and I hope everybody has the opportunity to really play that one game that will change the way you view every other game you play. And I've played quite a few games, and it's funny, I always kind of come back to this game. I try to stay active on Facebook, on groups about other games that are out there. And it's funny because I see these game masters and, oh, this happened with my group, what should I do? Oh, this happened with my group. And what's great about Rollmaster is the community that goes back 30 years. And I still haven't had this happen, and I kind of have a challenge if I can find it, but these game masters will post a question. How do I handle initiative in this scenario? And I think to myself, I'm like, oh yeah, that's in Rollmaster Companion too. And how do I handle fate points? My party was killed. And, oh yeah, that's in Channeling Companion. And it's really great that all these trials and tribulations that can happen in a role-playing experience. Almost everything so far that I've seen has been addressed somewhere in Rolemaster. And not only has it been addressed, but I think it's been addressed well. Power creep in a lot of these games is horrific. You know, there's a new game out there that everybody's saying is so revolutionary, and my comment is, you know, they swung the Nerf bat at a game that had too much power creep. They're getting a lot of TPKs, total party kills, and there's a real easy reason for that. They really didn't nerf any of the NPCs. So you try to nerf the players because you know we're going to do the math. We're going to try to figure out, you know, what's going to make my mage happy, and
we're going to min-max whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and so you know that's always been part of the game, and so they swung this Nerf bat at this game, and everybody thinks it's so revolutionary. And in my opinion, it's like, well, no, it's kind of just still the same game. You know, I like tacos, I like Mexican food, but I'm going to try other things on the menu. I don't think this is the game for everybody. But I think
it's a crunchy game that people
It's a
want.
crunchy game, yeah. And if you're looking for a game that's realistic, where you know this isn't just a war of attrition, 3, 3, 3, right? That I'm actually going to be a hero. That it means something to me. You know, that's what's fantastic about the game. Because there are a few games out there that do combat and realism as well as Rolemaster, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
And if people were looking to, say, join that GM community that you were talking about, where would they be able to find you?
So IronCrownEnterprises.com, that is our main website, and on the forums, Iron Crown, thank you. And there are forums where you could go in, and I believe the playtest is still open, and you can go onto the website and you can check that out. Quite a few discussions about it on there.
So you can go play test this right now on the website.
The Rolemaster Unified is, yes, in playtest.
Okay,
And they have Creatures Law, Arms Law. Creatures and Arms Law, I think, is together right now. And again, it's still kind of in flux. But the Creatures, the book right now, I think is close to 900 pages of creatures.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, and so you know, they're working, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do all this? You know, the spells, just in this book alone, you're looking at thousands of spells.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating system. Terry still runs Eidolon Studios, his website. That's still out there for the people that like that. So.
Amazing. Where can people find you online?
I actually volunteer to support a product.
Okay, so you're just hanging out?
My buddies, I hooked up with some buddies gaming. One of my buddies wrote for another game, and we started gaming together, and I met, you know, my friend, and he's written a couple products for Iron Crown. I guess if you believe in something, you got to support it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you do it with your heart and not just for $1, I think it means a lot more. And so for me, I come to Gen Con every year, and I support a great company. There's nothing I've seen from this company that just isn't top notch. And you can't really say that about a lot of games out there, unfortunately.
I can.
Well, you can.
I play a lot of games, though. I have like 900 board games.
You know, as an educator, I have to always view my students through the light of, you know, they're an empty canvas, and they're going to grow into a unicorn.
Yep.
Reality sometimes doesn't happen. But with Iron Crown, the stuff they make is just top notch, and you know, so I have to support it. I have to.
So where could people find you here? Where's your booth so people can come
We
visit?
are 3061. Okay. We are sharing our booth with Pointy Hat.
Yeah, they get to hang out with me.
Yes.
Yeah,
so if you
go see him.
Yes, if you come in, please come in down the aisle, the second aisle down off the wall, and you can come in and say hi to the hat.
Yeah. Also, we're having a contest to name me. I don't really have a name right now.
Oh, that's so sad.
But if you come in, you can fill out a form, give me a name, we'll leave your email address, and we'll let you know if you're the lucky winner.
All right. Well, I have plenty of names, so I'm definitely going to stop by your booth and come try to help find you one.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Did you have anything? Can we find you online anywhere?
Oh, yes. Our website is pointyhat.games. And you can also find us on Facebook.
Pointy Hat Games.
On Twitter, at PHG Wizards. And
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And tune in a little bit for Cryptozoic Entertainment. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.